Starbound is a game that people say is only carried by the many mods you can choose to download, and those people are right. By Chucklefish's own admission, the game isn't completed, and it lacks a lot of features. Features that the modding community stepped up and added. Starbound is such a much better game thanks to the entirety of its modding community. Other times, it's a worse game as well. And I've had the, pleasure of playing all of the popular ones over the last few years. Alright, look, after being held hostage by this game due to this YouTube channel, I've formed a lot of strong opinions on the mods I've played, and because I'm a YouTuber and therefore a narcissist, I think people need to hear my thoughts and opinions on them. I actually broke free from this captive hold Starbound had on me, and I'm making content on other games now. I'm riding off into the sunset, but before I do, I'm dropping this bombshell built from my dogshit thoughts and opinions before I'm gone. Some of the mods on this list are alright, others need the kick in the ass only a mediocre, drunk, racist content creator can provide. So get comfy, crack open a cold one, and get ready to leave a comment calling me a gay retard because I spoke bad about your favorite mod. Alright, so let's start this off with a lightning round. These are popular mods that only add a few things to the game and there isn't much to say about them, but they're still pretty significant and popular, so I kind of have to mention them. Knightfall adds a bunch of weapons, armor, furniture, and vehicles to the game that are all themed by being manufactured by the Knightfall Arms company. All the things added are all fantastically animated and have really good sprite work. Seriously, this stuff is very aesthetically pleasing. None of this is balanced at all, for either vanilla or Frackin Universe. Cool mod, 7 out of 10. Adds a bunch of weapons and armor to loot spawns in the world. Many are original, and others inspired by other games and media. Everything has great sprite work and animations. It's really fun to find these great pieces of equipment as boss rewards or as loot. This has tons of add-ons for specific weapons you can get to. So this mod is very customizable. None of it is balanced, even in the slightest. Everything is an overpowered piece of equipment. Overall, 8 out of 10. Good job. I'm going to be honest, I forgot I had this installed and what this mod does. I actually had to go back and look at the mod page for a reminder and was surprised by how little this does. This mod adds a few pieces of equipment, a few random encounters, and a dungeon. I mean, it's alright. I'd rather have it than not. Armok once downvoted me for being racist on the Starbound subreddit. 6 out of 10. Adds a bunch of tools, equipment, quests, and other things, all in the spirit of expanding the game themed around older versions. I admittedly didn't use this all too much or notice it much either, but that's kind of the point. The items are cool and fit the art style of Starbound well. The new biomes are all fun and help strengthen Starbound's themes of exploration. That's basically it. 8 out of 10. Good job, Silver. Adds a 5-minute long quest to get an incredibly overpowered laser gun. What the fuck more do I need to say about it? That one sentence sums it up. I don't know. Yeah, it's alright. 5 out of 10. Cosmic Expanse, made by James the Maker, is Chinese spyware disguised as a Starbound mod that he somehow sneaked onto the Steam Workshop. Once this mod is installed, all of your personal info is being monitored and sent back to the secret police of the CCP to monitor for anti-communist opinions. 10 out of 10, best mod ever. If you don't have anything to hide, why wouldn't you download this mod? By not downloading this, you're admitting you're a threat to the communist regime. I never actually played Arcana. I just blanked on it completely, and even when I did eventually download it, I never interacted with it at all. Sorry. Well, now that all the small mods are out of the way, let's start the main course. The fucking meaty mods. The ones that are massive. Before we get into the big one, Let's do a smaller one first. Elithian Races adds 4 new species to the game, with quests to explore the various cultures, 2 outposts that act as a hub area, racial-themed furniture, and some new equipment. There isn't a main story or quest chain for the mod, just a series of small side quests to help you get the lore for the 4 new races, as well as a bunch of random encounters you can find on the various planets. Apparently, they're all based off of a Spore RP game that the devs decided to port over to Starbound. The quests for the mod are nothing special but fun to play. They usually consist of a small dungeon where you just fight some bandits, go scan an object, or go on a fetch quest for an NPC. So the mod fits into Starbound just fine. That statement will depend on if you like Starbound's quest structure or not. I mean, one of the first Avakin quests that you do is scan in all the important places and their special outpost, just like the vanilla game. None of the quests are nothing to write home about, but were still enjoyable to play. Lastly, this mod has a fairly unique feature that I think only Betabound has done. Depending on the time of the real year, themed events will take place, these being Halloween and Christmas, where the outposts will be decorated appropriately and you can get some cool themed items. The first race is the Raiizy, which are elves, and if that wasn't bad enough, apparently they're originally from a long-lost colony of humans that mutated to become elves. They have a utopian society that respects nature, they don't drink alcohol or consume meat, which makes them boring. They also believe in peace and harmony, and therefore they need to be killed on sight for Armok or Khorne. Whatever blood god you swore your soul to works just fine. My initial thoughts on elves being in Starbound was that I didn't like them. You see, I kind of like my science fiction to be a little different from my fantasy. Elves cross that line, and I didn't really like that. Over time, though, they kind of grew on me. They make a surprisingly good addition to the game's lore, because they're the only race that can be described as a utopia. They are united and have a government that seemingly cares for the people. All the vanilla races are fragmented and scattered across the galaxy, so the Raiizy having a good contrast with the vanilla races makes them really cool. The next race is the Trinkets, which is a race of sentient robot people. Yeah, that's kind of it for them. Unless I missed something from the mod, I don't really have much to say about them. I think their inclusion is odd because with this mod it makes it so there are 2 races of sentient robot people in the galaxy, completely separate from one another. But one of them are obsessed with medieval technology in a fun contrast to their robot selves. The other is just short robot people. To show how bland they are, the most notable Trink I encountered while playing with this mod was Slav. He was a player in the multiplayer series.
What is a sword?
This is Family Feud, not Jeopardy, you stupid fucking retard.
Ah, shit.
Next up is the Avakin, which are desert lizard people who worship the monolith. I believe this is because in Spore, the monolith is an item you could use to uplift a species directly into the space stage, so it's a callback to the roots of the mod. The Avakin had some brutal war that caused them to flee their homeworld, and now exist as a nomadic spacefaring civilization, like the Quarians from Mass Effect. Unlike the Quarians, though, they're a brutal hunter tribal society. They fashion tools and equipment from the bones of their enemies. If you decide to play as them, your upgrade path is about hunting monsters instead of mining for resources, which is a pretty cool change. Last but not least is the Troden, which is a race of sentient robot people created by the Avakin during their war. Yeah, if you thought the Trinkets existed stole limelight from the glitch, this mod couldn't help itself and now added a 3rd race of robot people into the mix. This mod makes the glitch seem a lot less special and unique, because apparently robot people sprout up around the galaxy like weeds. Where these guys differ though, is the Droden were created by the Avakin to wage war. The vast majority of the Droden are not sentient, but a few of them just randomly became so, and the Avakin just shrugged and are chill with it, unlike the Quarians from Mass Effect who tried to immediately genocide their newly sentient robots. While I take issue with the addition of 2 more robot people in Starbound, they all make great additions to the galaxy. The equipment that I have been able to obtain kinda fucking sucked. None of the weapons did any amount of decent damage, with vanilla weapons outperforming them. The animations and design fit well to each of their races, but unless you're role-playing, I really can't see you using them at all. There is a whole mechanic themed around modifying the equipments and upgrading them to better suit your needs and make them better, but I never decided to do that. Just because the weapons were so terrible to begin with, I couldn't imagine them being good if I did all that. My final thoughts on the mod are positive. The races the mod adds are fun to explore and discover, and reignited that spark of discovery that Starbound used to pull me in. Elithian Races help fills out the galaxy with more aliens, and gives a good amount of lore and quests to get to know them. Overall, I give the mod a 7 out of 10. I had to knock down a point because the Steam page of this mod has links to some other Starbound YouTuber's video on it, and not mine where I performed a genocide on the elves. Alright, well now I guess I need to do the big one now. I kind of wanted to start things off on a positive note though. Frackin Universe is the most popular mod and most downloaded mod for Starbound, and for a very good reason. It adds in tons of quests, weapons, armor, new progression system, dungeons, mech parts, a new outpost, new planets, new biomes, new enemies, new ores, new races, with unique RPG-like stat bonuses. It adds in vehicles, space station trading economy, alcohol brewing, new furniture, new blocks and tiles, and more. Actually, it adds in so much more that I had to look it up on their wiki page and was reminded how much stuff I've seen in my 3-year playthrough that is just from this fucking mod. The mod page is not kidding when it says it's a complete gameplay overhaul. I'm not going into every little thing it adds for the sake of brevity. I'll only cover the main parts. Sorry to the 12 people who love the addition of complex bee breeding, but stuff like that has to be skipped. The new races, biomes, and planets are all incredibly fun to explore. All of the races it adds are fun and unique, from a secret society of cockroach people who lived below the surface of Earth, to a Greek-inspired race of aliens. Elithian Races added 4, Frackin Universe adds 13. And as mentioned before, each of the races has their own RPG-esque stat bonuses to weapons, armor, and equipment. Frackin Universe expands on Starbound's strength of exploration to a very strong degree, and it's the best aspect of this mod. Even the new dungeons and quests it adds expand upon the universe of Starbound in a very positive way. Like being able to see how horrible and vile the Florins are, taking down a fleet of ships controlled by a Wayland Yutani knockoff. Just the new things to go out and see will add tons of hours of positive and fun gameplay, and it's the best thing that this mod has to offer. Even the new monsters it adds to planets and biomes are all plentiful and unique. However, in order to actually get to the cool and interesting stuff Frackin Universe adds, the mod changes the progression quite a lot. It's at this point that I stop being positive for the mod, and will probably be the cited reason why Sater bans me from the FU Discord. Frackin Universe wanted to slow the player's progression down quite a lot. In vanilla, there really isn't anything stopping the player from just beaming down to an endgame planet, mining the best resources, and getting the best gear within a few hours of gameplay. Unfortunately for us, Frackin Universe decided to try and fix this problem. None of what I'm about to say is original and has been said numerous times before by other people, but I still need to talk about it. The research system works by hiding all of the crafting recipes in the game and only making them accessible by spending research points and having a relevant item. Higher tiers of gear follow a strict linear progression, so even if you have the materials to craft it, if you haven't researched the previous texts, you are unable to. This sounds simple, but the whole thing falls apart with how fucking complicated some of the requirements are, as well as the way of acquiring research points. You slowly gain research as you play Starbound, gaining a small bonus for longer sessions of game time, and this number goes up depending on what type of planet you're on. You can also gain research as quest rewards, using FU's extractor, or by building computers. The only issue is you need so many research points to unlock things, and for the first part of your playthrough, you won't be getting enough to progress at a fast rate. This is assuming you're trying to just get better gear and going for upgrades, because in order to unlock any crafting recipe, you need to spend research. Want to build your house? Well, you gotta spend research to unlock the crafting recipes for wood furniture, stone furniture, for copper furniture, for iron furniture. In fact, it's for all of the types of metal furniture. You want to grow some crops to get some positive buffs? Well, you gotta spend research down the agricultural tech tree to get them. See that neat side grade for your current tier of equipment? Are you gonna spend research to get it? Or are you just gonna wait long enough for a legitimate upgrade? Progression being arbitrarily locked behind a time gate is garbage. Going from tier 5 to tier 6 equipment requires 9,000 points of research, which at a rate of 1 per second, it'll take you 2.5 hours to get enough points to unlock. Yeah, you can speed it up, but regardless, locking progression by a time gate is such a dogshit solution to prevent the player from getting high-end gear quickly. Being told to wait until your playthrough clock hits the 12-hour mark to advance is such a fuck you to the player. Not to mention, this makes repeat playthroughs tedious as shit. Before I started my third character for the previous multiplayer server, the thought of needing to grind all that research again kept me up at night. Jesus Christ, I haven't even talked about the balance yet. To put it shortly, it's terrible and inconsistent. None of the added races are balanced with one another. The Z get bonuses to health, energy, defense, and at the cost of extra damage from a few of elemental types. Compare that to the slime people, who do 15% more damage with the garbage whip weapon at the cost of needing to eat more. I don't think this was even attempted to be balanced. This extends to almost all of the extra types of weapons and armor. A lot of them are side grades at best, and as I discussed previously, you're wasting your annoying to gather research points to acquire them anyway. The Lunari tech unlock requires half the cost of upgrading to the next tier, titanium. So why even go into Lunari weapons? You might as well save your hard-weighted research for a direct upgrade. Tungsten equipment is better than Lunari anyway. They do less damage, but deal in elemental damage as a trade-off. Crystal Shotgun deals 16.1 damage, compared to the Tungsten's 18.9. Both have the same fire rate. If anything, the Tungsten Shotgun is better, because what if you encounter an enemy with resistance to cold damage? Then this side grade, which already did less damage, is even worse. But let's say you're fighting this tier 2 enemy known as a Vectus. 50% vulnerability to cold damage from the Crystal Cannon, and a 20% physical damage resistance from the Tungsten Shotgun. The Crystal Cannon is now dealing 24.1 damage a shot, compared to the Tungsten Shotgun's 16.1. So, because it's a shotgun, if all the pellets hit, a single shot from the crystal cannon should be enough to kill it right away. Compared to the tungsten shotgun, it should take 2. Which means the crystal cannon is better, right? Well, the tungsten shotgun has an alt fire that you can just quickly fire after the first shot. So you just end up killing it a few milliseconds later anyway. The tungsten shotgun is basically the exact same, even in an environment where the crystal cannon should be. The crystal cannon's alt fire is some gimmicky bomb that you can't really reliably use to hit things. On top of that, the tungsten shotgun's physical damage is more applicable to most enemies. And remember, you're now taking longer to get to the next tier of equipment because you wasted research points to unlock Lunari equipment. This is an isolated example, but it's applicable with all of the equipment in Frackin Universe. And remember, you're now taking longer to get to the next tier of equipment because you decided to waste research points to unlock Lunari stuff. And the crystal cannon has a harder crafting recipe to make. This is an isolated example, but it's applicable with all of the equipment in Frackin Universe. I just picked these two at complete random. Look, here's another random example. The titanium longsword is once again better than the side-grade carbon longsword. Who cares that the carbon longsword inflicts bleed? The titanium one will just outright kill your target quicker, because you're not hitting monsters and running away. Just swing your sword one more fucking time. The titanium longsword will still comes out on top. Also, don't at me and say if you play as the Blorgo race with the left Lunari nut of Jesus, you increase the firing rate of all Lunari or carbon equipment, making them better, because that's a lot of hoops to jump through to make a gimmicky piece of equipment better. And the same would apply to the mainline equipment as well. Crafting is incredibly tedious and boring, and with crafting being as big a part of the game as it is, that's a big issue. A lot of the items needed to craft pieces of equipment are very grindy and take a lot of tedious effort to gather. If you need a silicon board for a crafting recipe, that means you're going to a desert, mining a bunch of sand, throwing it into an extractor, and waiting for it to shit out your silicon. On top of that, you're probably flipping through the wiki to make sure you have everything else that you need, running around making your machines or getting enough fuel to power everything before you automated it. And if you discover you lack the one resource you need to finish a recipe, you bet your ass it's gonna be a fucking goose chase to acquire it. If you need something like a stick of RAM, you need plastic polymer, which means you need carbon dioxide, which means you now need to look up the various crafting recipes to get it. Now for this one item, you've just opened up 3 tabs of the wiki for one ingredient of the entire recipe. Trying to play this mod without the wiki open is impossible due to the sheer amount of lists of things you need to consult. Just to quickly hammer this point out too, the writing in Frackin Universe can be of questionable quality too. As somewhat of an edgy guy myself, even I find myself thinking it goes a little too far. Like, did Starbound really need ground up orphan paste as an item? Dead baby jokes are the stuff I thought in the 4th grade was funny. Edgy writing walks a fine line between being cool and looking dumb, and Frackin Universe falls on the dumb side anytime it gets brought up. Also, this is an incredible nitpick, but the Frackin Universe take on Lovecraftian horror is terrible. Being around Lovecraft stuff will generate madness, which causes you to see weird stuff and have hallucinations. You can spend that madness on going through the madness tech tree. Yeah, it turns out the characters from all of H.P. Lovecraft's works could build some badass armor and equipment to cure themselves, instead of just fucking killing themselves. In the spirit of Lovecraft, madness shouldn't be a benefit to the player. Honestly, the stuff from this tree is pretty cool. I just really disagree with this interpretation. There's a lot more to bring up gameplay-wise, but much like having it installed, Frackin has already taken up a lot of time already. Before I give a final opinion, I wanted to briefly touch the various controversies about this mod. Unless you're new to Starbound, you already know what I'm talking about. Frackin Universe stole a lot of its content from other mod makers, and even added code that would fuck up your game if you had the original mod installed. On top of that, Satyr likes to send his goons to go after people who shit-talk his mod, and they like to rampantly defend the mod against its wrongdoings. Look at this fucking revisionist history they tried to spout a while back. Like, it hasn't been well documented that FU stole so much from tons of mod makers claiming so. They even took down a Frackin Universe parody mod a couple years ago. This mod basically fixed all the issues I've talked about, and I'm going to assume Satyr got pissy someone made something better, so he sent a DMCA takedown for copying his work, which is incredibly fucking ironic. Anyway, I'm showing a handful of screenshots here to prove all this, but Google will provide more if you need to. The reason why I say all this is because you have to remember that Frackin Universe is made by a lot of uncredited people. So praising the mod is basically praising a thief. But this is all old as shit drama that nobody gives a shit about anymore, honestly. So, all that being said, do I recommend Frackin Universe as a mod? Yes. Yes, actually I do. Satyr being a cunt aside, this mod does fill in a lot of gaps that Starbound desperately need. The progression system is heavily flawed. Hey, at least it's a decent progression system. The vanilla one is so lackluster, Frackin Universe gives it some meat and staying power. The extra equipment it adds isn't balanced for shit, but the variety is actually nice. Even if a suit of armor sucks, a lot of the sprite work is pretty good. So you can just throw it in the cosmetic slot or use it for roleplay. For multiplayer, it's nice to see that every person on a server would actually have unique drip due to all the options FU add. And as previously stated too, the sheer amount of stuff it adds to see and explore far make up for all of the shortcomings. So a lot of the times when I'm out looking for a specific tedious to gather item for a crafting recipe, I end up in a spiral of side quests and missions, sending me out on a huge adventure that never would have happened otherwise. In one of my videos, I needed water and sand for a crafting recipe, which sent me out on a long journey and added a lot of fun and enjoyable hours of gameplay looking for it. If you play this mod with friends, it's a cool idea to imagine each of your friends specializing in one area of the tech tree. You could roleplay as a mad robot scientist and have gameplay to back it up too. If it wasn't for Frackin Universe, I probably would have dropped Starbound a long time ago. Although, I can't help but think that Frackin Universe is only good and downloaded so much because of the numerous shortcomings of vanilla Starbound. If Starbound was a better game, this mod would have been dead in the water. So all that being said, I hesitantly recommend Frackin Universe, and I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Play it because there isn't anything else, and it's way better than vanilla. Satyr, if you're still watching, I just want to know if your kid has ever gotten in trouble at school for plagiarism, and if you've had to discipline him for it. Shellguard is a large mod that adds in new weapons, new vehicles, a new outpost, new pieces of furniture, and several quests under the guise of working for a group of shady arms dealers. The mod advertised itself as an old-school style expansion pack, and for the Zoomers in the audience, DLC for games used to include entire pieces of new content, like maps or weapons, for a fraction of the game's price, and Shellguard certainly does that, and it does it very well. You could tell someone that this mod is an actual piece of paid DLC, and they would probably believe you because of how well it's made. First thing to get out of the way, the sprite work and animations are all very good. The animations are very smooth and fit in wonderfully with the vanilla weapons. Everything that this mod adds has a slick red and black aesthetic with a unique utilitarian style that is very pretty. The main Shellguard outpost has a nice military industrial vibe to it. There's guys fixing machines, chilling out in the barracks. You really get the impression that these are corporate merc stooges, and other mods really fail to capture the sense of atmosphere that the Shellguard base has. Shellguard adds in a bunch of weapons and armor. Stat-wise, the weapons leave a lot to be desired. They all have cool sound effects, but they're not very good. The main rifle doesn't deal enough damage or have a good enough fire rate to justify using. The unique weapons you get from the main story lack any punch at all. It's also strange that they don't have their stats listed, which is weird because everything else the mod adds does, so it stands out. The weapons and armor aren't just poorly balanced to the base game, but internally as well. The sniper rifle you get from doing the main quest makes this big beefy sound and fires a huge flaming projectile, only to see it needs to take multiple slow-firing shots to down the basic bandits you face in the mod. Going back to the heavy rifle, but by the time it spools up to a decent fire rate, you've probably killed whatever you were trying to already. The shotgun though, it slaps. It slaps fucking hard. Shooting out a huge cloud of flame bullets with a pretty good fire rate, this is probably going to be the gun you use to complete the mod. But if we're being honest here, you didn't install Shellguard for these firearms or the armor. That's not what this mod is known for at all. You installed it because of the fucking badass tanks and the crab mech. Full disclosure, but the vehicles are not balanced at all, and they're incredibly overpowered. But that doesn't matter because they are fun as shit to use. I used the hover tank throughout my playthrough series because not only is it powerful, but it's incredibly practical. It skims across planets with ease. It has a mining drill on the front so you can go digging with it or just barrel through a mountain or florin village. The gunships, like the tank, aren't balanced, but still fun. Raining death down with the gunship and dropping bombs from above is so much fun. I've even used the gunship in place of the mech for space missions, and it holds up pretty well. Then there's the crab mech. If there was any sense of balanced gameplay, it's abandoned once you get this fucking thing. It's tanky as fuck as can be, it's fast, deadly, and the animations are so good. God damn, I love this thing, even if it is a little too destructive. Not only are they incredibly fun to use, but they're also highly customizable to a ridiculous degree. You can change the cockpit, the legs, the color, the weapons. You have a lot of options. I do have to take points away because one of the weapon options is a Florin side gunner, and Florins should not have access to this fun and useful piece of hardware, but it's bugged and doesn't work, and the mod maker should not fix it. Shellguard has a main story, as well as a handful of side quests. In order to unlock all the cool vehicles I talked about, you have to complete them. Just a blanket statement, but the writing for all the quests in well with the vanilla game and matches it in quality, so make of that as you will. The main quest has you fight off a few bandit groups that have pissed off Shellguard, followed by stopping a rogue AI they accidentally created, and finally the Iron Watch. Iron Watch takes an issue with Shellguard basically being PMC arm dealers, and is basically Shellguard but in grey colored armor. All of the quests, though, are all fun little detours. You have a dueling arena that gets harder with each level, various tutorial missions for the vehicles of the mod, and lastly, you have to go rescue some scientist's dad and prove to him that his son isn't a complete fucking loser. They're all a lot shorter than the main story, but have the same quality. I should probably point out that the only part of the quests that I'm criticizing is actually the story and writing. and that's because gameplay-wise, they are all very fun. The main quest has you fight progressively harder groups of enemies, helps keep the gameplay fresh, and the difficulty is very fine. All the missions are fun and varied from one another, and they even let you use the vehicles the mod adds to switch up the combat from time to time. Overall, completing all of the quests that Shellguard adds will probably take you around 10 hours, and that's 10 hours of fun and enjoyable gameplay from start to finish. Overall, Shellguard is one of the better mods for Starbound, if not the best in terms of quality. This is such a high quality mod, it probably could have been an official part of the game, and no one would know otherwise. The vehicles are all overpowered, but fun to use, and the best on anything that the workshop has to offer. My final score for Shellguard is easily 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it to everyone who plays Starbound. And if you like the mod, you can buy the official Shellguard shower curtain or throw pillow to support the mod author.
Oh my god!